Welcome, everybody, to another Monday expert interview. Housing economics, building materials, building codes, the Biden affordability plan, and vaccine mandate. What is the message from the National Association of Home Builders? Membership matters. Get the resources. Hear the message straight from National Association of Home Builders, one of the largest trade associations in the United States, representing the interests of home builders, developers, contractors, and associated business. Today, we are welcoming Paul Lopez, Senior Vice President of Communications and Public Affairs at National Association of Home Builders, along with the one, the only, Greg Ugalde, the immediate past chair of the National Association of Home Builders. So let's get started with this. We're going to bring in Greg Ugalde first. Greg, how are you today?
Good. How are you today?
Man, I'm having an awesome day. Anytime I get to help out the National Association of Home Builders and talk about what's happening in the world, it makes me happy as can be. So
perfect.
Greg, you know, it's been a month, right? Greg comes on every month.
That's
and
right.
Greg, you realize, we are live on multiple channels, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. And you normally join us from Twitch.
That's right. That's right.
And
it
our
seems
Twitch
to
is
be
growing.
the great platform, right? It seems to be. Well, you know what it does too, Dave, is it shows how innovative you're trying to get, right? To really reach out in areas that people, any conduit that you can get your hands on that'll get the word out. And that's what makes it such a great effort and special show that way.
Yeah, well, it really is. We need more youth in our industry. We need to reach out to them because they are not flooding to us. So we go to where they are at. Today, everybody, we are going to have a show that ends around 1:45 because it is also Building Systems Week. And I am moderating Building Systems Week for the National Association of Home Builders, BSC. If you have not signed up, you're wrong. You need to go sign up. The only way we're going to change this industry is if we collaborate and we educate each other and we learn from each other and we're willing to try new things. So we're kicking today off with a big time guest from the NAHB, somebody that carries a lot of weight behind the scenes. And Greg, you know we love to talk about the people that do the real work. Why don't you make the announcement of who we're going to have on today, and then let's bring them into the show.
Sure. And so much of, all the previous guests, for example, the prep that even goes into anything that we do at the National Association of Home Builders goes through our communications and public relations department. And Paul Lopez is our person that is in charge of that and has an enormous team that is prepping us every day throughout the day. And Paul's a pretty special person, as you're about to find out. Let's bring Paul on.
Love it. All right. All right. What is happening, Paul? Welcome to the show today.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Well, it's awesome to have you. I cannot wait to dive into this because you do so much work with your team behind the scenes, press releases, communication about IBS, what's happening in the news that you need to get out information to the members of the NAHB. But before we get into all this, we want to know everything about you from the moment you were born to this very moment in time, Paul. Do not leave out any of the good stuff from the hospital, or Greg Ugalde's wife is going to call your mother and we will find out everything. And trust me, I met her. She will do it. But you only have 2 minutes, so go ahead.
No, I appreciate it. Well, I've been in NAHB for now approaching 19 years. I absolutely love it. I can't imagine being in any other department other than communications, just because, like you all mentioned, we have our fingers in everything. So it's never a boring day here. We're always trying to get the message out, not only to the members and up on the Hill, but also, as you both pointed out, to the new, building stock out there who aren't members yet. So it's always fun. It's exciting. I love it here. I love the ability to work with our senior officers like Greg. And I look forward to it in the future as well.
Well, we look forward to having this conversation, and let's just dive into it, right? So you have a big responsibility. Can you walk us through, just so people can get a taste of what your day's like when big news hits the market, right? Today I saw, and we'll talk about it with Greg, the chief economist was on the news talking about lumber prices dropping. And what does that really mean? My guess is you guys are behind the scenes pulling all this information together to help get the right message out there that's accurate and on target. Is that part of what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever any kind of information breaks, it's our job to look at it holistically and figure out, okay, what are the best channels for this to get pushed on, not only on the public level, but also internally between our senior officers, our members, and up on the Hill. And each one has a kind of a different tone and a different message that we want to push. Oftentimes, the stuff that we tell our members and our builders is something completely different than what we're trying to tell the public, because they're resonating in two different ways, right? You got the professional who has to hear it a certain way, and they know it a little bit more holistically and a little bit more, with more maturity, as opposed to the public who, they want sound bites. The media wants sound bites. So to make sure we get the right sound bites, at the right times is key. And that includes everything from going up, to television, to social media, to our blogs, to up on our website. Everything has a different perspective and a different way of communicating out to the general public. And it keeps us busy.
You're gonna have to educate me now, because this is a problem we have in our industry throughout. We're really good at talking our own language to each other within the industry, and you just hit on something very, very important. But how do you turn that language into perspective that the average consumer who doesn't understand our lingo can understand what's happening in the market? And you have a team of people that actually look at this and do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And usually what we do is when we look at the audience, we figure out what's important to them. We tailor and customize the messaging so it resonates to their psyche, as opposed to us trying to force it and make them think, oh, thinking as a builder, this is what's going on. Now, if we're talking about the general public, if we're talking to like investors, as you talked about, we're on Fox Business today about lumber. We're talking to the investor. We're talking about to the person who wants to look at numbers. They don't necessarily, want to talk about the problems that a builder has. What they want to do is figure out, okay, how is this relevant to my needs and to my industry? And that's what we do all across the board, up until Capitol Hill, and even to the state and local level.
Right.
Dave, one of the things, it's interesting. So, Paul, you've heard me talk about geofencing and different tools that are used, right? That comes from Paul's team. So if we have an issue, lumber's the great example. So Dr. Rob Dietz, Rob was on this morning. Now, he develops a lot of the numbers and a lot of the real deep research that goes into it. Now, Paul has to take that. And when we had the success that he was talking about, driving lumber prices down, that's when we coordinated it through communications. So that public relations communications group took over, and they started sort of harnessing all the different efforts we had across the country with state and local governments, but especially at the federal level. We focused on different areas like around the lumber mills, for example, and we hit them with heavy social media and email and just everything that we could do to contact them. And Paul is the one that has to take his team and make sure that somehow that we're covering each and every one of these issues. And that's just one of the daily issues that we have that's reaching DEFCON 1.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I mean, there has been a lot of news, Paul, over the last year and a half that I am sure has had you at DEFCON 1 on a regular basis, for sure.
Yeah, but lumber was a key one, obviously, for most of our members and to the public at large, because it affected the consumer, right? It literally meant that some people could not build their house and could no longer afford it. So look, the biggest thing that I took away from this last year, and I'm so proud of my team, is that we owned that subject matter from fit to finish. We got a total of $50 million worth of earned media within that year. And we're in over 12,000 stories. Now, other groups had to pay for it. I mean, we're always talking about like the realtors and how much, influence they have and how much money they put into campaigns. This didn't cost NAHB members a dime. This was us going out there, getting earned media, and got that exposure that our members and our builders across the country needed to get that price down.
And this is what I say to everybody all the time, especially our audience in the offsite world. The National Association of Home Builders is truly out there putting in the hard work to protect our interests, protect our rights, promote what we do, all the way up. And I heard you say it on Capitol Hill, right? That's where the politicians are and policies made that affect us each and every day. So, Paul, let's hop into this. Let's talk about communication, since that's the subject that we're on, and what you guys are currently doing at the NAHB, past past and present. And if you're all right with it, I'll put your website up as well.
Yeah, please do. Look, we're nonstop all the time, right? We're kind of dipping out of the lumber price scenario, but supply chain issues continue to be a factor. So now we're kind of pivoting there. A lot of our members, are still asking for help from us. And again, it's not just about the public face of NAHB. We have to go around and pivot and make sure that our members and prospective members know of the products and services and tools that we provide. Our website, which is less than a year old, is a good tool for that. That's where we put almost everything. And if you're logged down as a member, you get access to a bunch of tools and a lot of resources that people are actually clamoring for. Last year, PPP and EIDL, those programs were a big thing for our members to try and keep their doors open. So we provided the webinars, we provided toolkits, we provided, different kind of legal documents that they can use. And all that was put on the website. So it's easily found and, easily accessible to everybody.
Right. And I think that's the key to it at NAHB.org. And I have the ticker down there and we'll get into it. Membership, it's more than just belonging to an organization. It's resources, it's education, it's insight, it's how to run your business, how to swing a hammer, how to do everything is all bundled up into this membership to include, like we said, protecting our rights on Capitol Hill.
So Dave, just to follow up on that topic, though, do you remember when the pandemic first kicked in and we're all scrambling, right? We're trying to figure out what's the masks thing? Yeah. What are we doing? How do we keep our doors open for each and every one of our businesses? Step one, we went around the country and Paul's team formed a toolbox that we used to make sure that our businesses, our industry was essential around the country. And to the extent that we had such great success in that, everything was able to build on that so that we were able to utilize the resources now. So we had take an hour a day to shut down your business, all publicized, all followed on major networks and magazines. We shut down businesses and talked about safety on job sites and what we had to do, keeping clean, keeping just everything, masks, the protections that we needed throughout this thing, so that so many of the issues, it's not like Paul could come in one day and his team goes down and checks something off and moves on. It's like that's just starting. The follow-up is every bit as important as hitting it on day one. Hit the line hard, and then you're in the open field, and it's still just as important.
Well, and it goes back to communications being that umbrella group, right? And also, in many ways, the translator, right? I mean, our legal team does a fantastic job. Our government affairs team does a fantastic job. Lord knows about Rob Dietz and all the econ stuff. The question is, to make sure that we know how to piecemeal everything together so it makes sense and put into one cohesive package. While at the same time, changing that econ speak or Hill speak in a way that resonates and people can actually use down at the ground, which I think is very important.
Yeah, for sure. I just love how you guys say Hill speak versus regular person speak, but it's a real thing. Sure. The average person who's not in DC, it doesn't live in that world, does not understand that whatsoever.
It's like Mark's building systems speak, right? Building science speak, yeah. Right? It's like all the time. It's great stuff. And we do the same thing in just all kinds of topics with this.
Well, maybe we should send Mark to Capitol Hill and see if he could do some negotiating for us.
Absolutely.
I love it. All right. So you guys are putting the tools in place for the membership and everything we have to do. You're packaging the communication in a way that it makes sense to everybody that needs to understand that information. And now we're leading up to one of the biggest events in the country. Happens every year. Unfortunately, it was virtual. Not unfortunately, but it was virtual last year. But fortunately, it looks like we're still going back in person this year. The International Builders Show 2022. How much communication is one having to do to get a show like this at the size? I mean, I think when we were in Vegas, Greg, it was over 100,000 people were attending. Are we expecting that moving forward, and are you pushing for more?
Yeah, well, we're hoping for roughly that number. I mean, the thing that, is kind of handicapping us a little bit is international travel is still kind of, limping along. So we're not going to have that, to help us. But look, I think we're going to have a great show. Everything that we hear from our members is saying, virtual is great, but we want to touch the products. Like we are tactile industry that wants to kind of feel things out and play with it. In that regard, I think the show is going to be, a fantastic success. We usually average about 300 to 400 members of the media. You'll be one of them, this coming year again. But it's a lot of communication. We help the senior officers in regards to all their speeches. We help some of our guest speakers as well, and we kind of coordinate all the press conferences, which we have dozens upon dozens of press conferences, and then some of the media, and they range everywhere from bloggers to the Wall Street Journal and CNN and CBS. They all come in and eventually do some sort of segment at our show.
Right.
We have to shepherd them around and kind of explore, like, hey, this is a good thing that you should pick up on. This is what's trending, and we kind of start placing some of the stories and kind of planning things. And some of these guys, especially the trade groups, they come in and they have their stories for the year. So it's very important that if that's their scenario, that we make sure that they use the right material, because those stories are going to resonate throughout the entire year.
Right.
Yeah. And Greg, are you speaking at IBS this year?
Yeah, well, we have all our meetings, full slate of meetings. I mean, it's going to be action-packed, all the way through. Right. We try a lot of different things too, not only on the exhibit floor. We try to keep that very high-paced and upbeat and talk to exhibitors, but about new products, things that really interest our members. But the education and just everything about the show is just second to none. I mean, so many people pick up their ideas about new products, but especially about how to do things and how to protect their businesses in all sorts of ways. And, you leave, and everything from opening ceremonies till the final concert, it's just action-packed. There's nothing really that's like that in every industry, but ours especially. You
Right.
walk out of opening ceremonies, you're pumped up, as you know, and it just lasts for the whole week. You just can't get enough.
You know what? I actually love being at the International Builder Show. I have so much fun this year. We got full press coverage, so we're going to be running around, and we'll be doing our show live from Orlando. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun, pulling people into the booth and
Right.
giving some inside peeks to what's really happening and all of the exciting stuff that's going on. If you're just tuning in, everybody, we are live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, because that's where the cool people are, to include Greg Ugalde. With that said, we are going to be cutting our show off at 1:45 today, but for good reason. We have Building Systems Week this week, so you need to go and sign up. It's not too late, starting at 2 o'clock, and then we're going to have live discussion panels afterward at 3 o'clock, and I will be moderating there. So excited about this. Paul, I kind of warned you in the beginning that I was going to ask you, give us some inside knowledge. What can you share with the Dave Cooper Live team here, whether it's upcoming news that's getting ready to be released, or what do we have going on at IBS that hasn't really been put out there yet?
Well, I don't want to break any embargoes, but I'll make a prediction that at least one governor, one member of Congress, and one cabinet secretary will be in attendance. How's that?
Oh, perfect. And I bet I really couldn't get you to commit to them being on the Dave Cooper Live show at IBS, could you?
I'll see what I can do for you, man.
Yeah.
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask.
Of course.
I'd be remiss. Well, Paul, I think it's wonderful what you're doing, and I think you have, in my opinion, probably the hardest job at the association. No doubt. You and your team. I know it's not just you. You have a team of people that have to keep all this together. And we really need people in this industry, especially young people, to know there are jobs at every level in this building world of ours, whether it's in politics, whether it's at the National Association of Home Builders, digital building, swinging hammers, plumbing, framing, HVAC. It doesn't matter. We cover the gamut, and we're the coolest industry out there. We are by far the coolest industry out there. We have somebody like you at the helm helping put that out there so we can get out of last place when it comes to innovation. I'm excited. It's good stuff.
I appreciate
Paul.
Thank you. I appreciate the kind words.
Well, we appreciate you. So, Paul, if you have time, stick around, and we're going to come back at the end of the show. But right now, we have to get into some industry updates with Mr. Greg Ugalde. Greg, there is a lot happening in the world. Lumber prices being a hot topic on the news today, and Paul even made mention of it earlier.
So, it's interesting. And we talked about how we've really attacked this and we've hit it on so many different levels. The important thing to take from this is that it has taken us some time, talking to Secretary of Commerce, Secretary of HUD, and we've made real good progress. We've had the convening. That's just like a summit, but they use a different word. We've had everybody at the table. And we've really pushed strongly for some of the things that are now being looked at to try to control pricing. And remember what we said, that we're not just looking for long-term solutions. And that's why this is so important. Because, and as Paul also said, that we have a number of supply chain issues out there. So we have everything from like steel mill products to building paper and building boards, asphalt, plastic water pipe, fertilizer materials, copper pipe and tube. The list is, if you take the top 12 products that have increased like that, it's over 30%. 30% price increase from all of those and more that I just mentioned. So we have to keep an eye on that, because think about what that's doing when we're locking into home prices. We're trying to focus on housing affordability, which has been my mantra since I've been a senior officer. It just doesn't ease up.
Well, it doesn't, but I hopefully that we're going to see some light at the end of this tunnel with everything going on out here in the world. And I know you're working hard at it. So we're gonna sizzle through some really hot topics. And believe you me, the White House has been lighting up the news over the last few months. But let's start off with the Biden Affordability Plan. What is the Biden Affordability Plan, and what does that mean to us out here in the home building world?
So the administration is focusing, at our urging and across the country, people realize that we need to create, preserve, and to sell homes to homeowners. And he's committed to 100,000 additional affordable homes over the next 3 years. We'll like to see that grow, and we'll work toward that. And when we see these starting points, right, when he's going to introduce this initiative, what we have to do is make sure that it's done properly and the most effectively. Because with this administration too, they're big on union prevailing wages and bringing certain sectors of our economy in on the construction. And we have to make sure that our members aren't left behind. Excellent effort. We applaud the effort, and we'll continue to work with them to bring it along.
So with good follow-up question on this, with the Biden Affordability Plan, the NAHB is involved in the conversation on how that rolls out and how it makes a difference?
Yes, it's, and one of the biggest parts of this is whenever we talk about the affordable housing component, we always make sure that the overall housing affordability issues, remember you and I have talked about the differences between the two and how important that because it's easy in some ways that we just bring up topics and we start addressing them, and it's sort of like we pound it out and we think that's a fix. It's not. We have much more to do over time, and that's what we're looking at. And we work well together. We work well with the administration, and that's what we get involved with, government affairs people. And, as we said, with Paul's team leading the way on as many articles and as many touches as you will get out there. So.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't imagine a world where the National Association of Home Builders or a representative of our community was not part of what's happening on Capitol Hill. To me, it would just we'd be in shambles. That's right. So we appreciate that. All right, next topic: Biden vaccine mandate. All right, this is a hot topic. It's on the news 24/7. Should I? Shouldn't I? How is it affecting the home building industry? And what is the National Association of Home Builders kind of take on this?
We have to be careful here because, as you mentioned earlier, we don't really get into the pure politics of an issue like this. We try to make sure that our diverse membership understands the importance of the issue. So the Biden vaccine mandate is, he's going to focus on companies with 100 or more employees. And they're going to require that workers are either vaccinated or you're going to get weekly tested. And that is not directly affecting many of our members. A large majority of our members are under 100 employees. But what it does do is it also talks about the contractual relationships that you have with companies that need to implement those requirements. So it gets a little gray for us. We have to protect our membership through that as well, right? Because that's where it can get tricky if you need to represent in order to live up to your end of the contract. So we have to, it's another thing that for us, and it's always been this way, is that we need to watch the health and safety of our members. That's what our efforts are about. Business, absolutely. We have to guide through all these business pitfalls and requirements and making sure that we can do things monetarily sound. But the biggest thing is keeping our members safe.
That's it. And how do you do it with the majority's interest in mind? Down in the ticker we have at NAHB.org/coronavirus, there is information there. And I know that the NAHB has also put out information for businesses and for builders and others out there. So you don't have to search for it. Just go to NAHB.org and you can find information on how to use the information for your business. Right?
Right.
Perfect. All right. Again, back on Capitol Hill to the White House. Eviction moratorium. I mean, we're just making news all over the place here. So go ahead. What are your thoughts on this?
What ended up happening here is the CDC came up with these eviction moratoriums. So there was an eviction moratorium that expired July 31st. And there was an awful lot of pushback, but you had like the Supreme Court even saying through Justice Kavanaugh and others saying, watch out for this, though. We're not going to make a decision on these cases before us now that the CDC has overstepped their authority in this area. But let's keep an eye on that. Well, one thing led to another. The first eviction moratorium expired July 31st, and the administration, President Biden had to step up, and we had legislators sleeping on the stairs of the Capitol. All sorts of things broke out. And they said, we need to protect our residents and our renters around the country. So they tried to extend it to October 3rd. That was in place. Got to be a little difficult, though. Case goes back to the Supreme Court. We were involved in that. And we were against extending the moratorium. And the Supreme Court said that the CDC did overstep and that they knocked out the authority to extend that. So, and that was August 26th that the Supreme Court did that. Now, let me explain, because it's important that we look at this. None of our members are interested in putting anybody out on the streets or take homes away from them. But what's happened through this whole effort, if we're not careful, and we've made great strides here in Connecticut, for example, I'm on our home Connecticut steering committee and advisory board. And what we've been able to do is get this point across. It's not simple, but in order to implement something where you're going to protect the renters, you have to have a rental assistance program in place, because your landlords, many of them are our members, the size of our membership. Either, the small 1, 2, 3 family homes, maybe up to 4 in a lot of cases. But these landlords have mortgages that they need to pay on. They have all of their household bills that come in. So if you're telling them that the people that are providing their income, their lights are still on, everything's still going well. And now you're going to say, oops, you know what? You have to somehow come up with getting foreclosed on, without your cards falling in. And that's where we were. So we've very, very carefully across the country been very involved in this and saying, look, let's get some rental assistance. Let's protect everybody then that needs to be protected during this pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, it can't be just one way. You know, if they can't pay their bills, the lights get turned off, and it's a lose for everybody involved at that point. So, once again, I appreciate the NAHB stepping in there and trying to make sense of some of these things. All right, so here we go. We got some really great news when it comes to the codes, ICC and IECC. Greg, what's happening out in the industry today?
So, and you gave me the heads up too, one that's directly related that we have to keep our eyes on the ball here are sections 1200 and 1205, right? So the uniformity in the inspection and regulatory compliance of offsite construction, critical here. And one of the things that we're looking for with the ICC is they get these model codes that are used around the country. So it's so important at this level that we have a say and we put best practice. IECC, that's going to be an ANSI standard. It's going to be used in energy efficiency. And when we're looking at a bunch of products and different code provisions, that we need to make sure that we're balancing some of the fiscal implications that we get from these. Because remember, this whole housing affordability that we keep talking about, it just keeps across the board if we don't watch it at all these levels. So the ICC is looking at their they have everybody in the Group A codes meetings this week. It's going to be open for public comment next. They're going to be bringing things forth. And these are the big things that we're going to be looking at. NAHB has as good a team as any in the country that review these for people. And they really look at it through like homeowner, all the homeowners, but especially our industry and what it means cost-wise and what it means for everybody. And we do a fantastic job supporting those provisions that we need to, but also fighting against those that are just adding costs when the science isn't. We hear Mark say that. You two say that every Friday, right? Building science, if it's not there, if you go down those wrong rabbit holes, you give everything a black eye because you're just raising the cost for no real good reasons.
Yeah, and that's true. And, let's give some credit. These codes and the hard work that everybody puts behind it, in this case, the Modular Building Institute and several other members of that organization, I believe also along with members of NAHB, worked hard to put some standards in place for offsite construction. This is big news because now the building officials in the field have some guides in their code books to be able to check things and understand how it works, because it's a big country, and this is a great step for the offsite world. And Greg, I appreciate you being the one to put it out there for us today. I think that is absolutely awesome. All right, Greg, we want to touch on it one more time. It is the biggest show out there. Barnum's and Bailey doesn't even have anything on this. It's called the International Builders Show. And we have big tents and we got buildings in the parking lots and we have homes that are built throughout Orlando and other places that you can go see. Greg, I just can't wait for this. I'm so excited. I'm being cooped up too long. It's time to get out and share with the world what's happening at IBS. What's your take on it?
So, the important thing to remember, too, is that Dave Cooper Live is going to be roaming the halls and going through the exhibit space, conducting live interviews. But you have to picture what we're talking about here. Dave, a lot of people don't realize we're talking about when we're at our largest, pandemic-less largest, we're going to still have a ton of square feet, but we're talking about 40 football fields of exhibit space. When we're bringing out the best products, the best knowledge, everything in our industry that people can capitalize on. Think about how tired you get from just walking from one end to the other. Never mind getting all your questions and all the swag that you get to pick up at each booth and stuff. It's just a must. It's a must to be in our industry and be as effective and as knowledgeable as you can be. You have to attend IBS. It's that simple.
You know what? It is that simple. And every year I go, we meet more people. We do business together. This is the big thing. You meet people and you do business together. And
Right.
not only that, you learn about things that you didn't even know existed that can change the course of your business. This isn't just building materials. It's building products. It's building science. It's tech. It's AR. It's VR, augmented reality, generative design, parametric design. Come on, how much fun is this?
That's right.
And all the gamers are going to be there this year.
That's
and
right.
Greg, we got just a few minutes left, so student chapter is going to be out there.
Yes.
We're gonna have some awards this year, so I'm hearing. And are you going to be part of those announcements?
Yes, so I get to MC that again this year. And one of the great things too, and it's really worth, because you're so involved now with the student chapters and with all the professors that you have on and the teachers from around the country. What makes this so great is we have high school and colleges that compete. They actually go through the approval, the planning, and the building stage of these projects that they're talking about. And so they have a week-long competition, a lot of prep work that goes into it in advance, and they're just always preparing. And I'm telling you, it warms your heart. There's 9 students there, with the music pounding and stuff, and a lot of them get scholarships and they're working, and it's all the best schools around the country. I mean, you've been to a lot of these schools, and that we're going to try to do in the future, right? Keep getting more ingrained in that. It really popped its head up with, the restrictions put on. Some of them weren't even able to meet in classrooms. They had to do remote learning. So all of this fits in, but there's nothing better than to see our young professionals coming up. And, we've talked a few times about, the opportunities and to avoid student debt, for example, and come up and be entrepreneurial. And that all culminates in great opportunities. So we have a lot riding on IBS, but we have a lot between now and then too. And we have a lot of issues that are coming up, as you can see. Never a dull moment. And, we want to, I guess we got a couple minutes. We should really thank Paul.
Yeah, let's bring Paul back in.
Sure.
And all right, Paul. Listen, did we go off cue anywhere? I mean, I don't have a teleprompter. I'm winging this stuff half the time just from my knowledge. So did we do okay?
Well done, gentlemen. Well done.
Good. Well, we have about 3-4 minutes. Let's get through some comments and some quick questions if there are any. And for everybody else that's out there, again, sorry for a shorter show today, but we got business to attend to today. We have Offsite Construction Week happening starting right after this show at 2:00. So make sure you go there and register and join us, but not before this show's over. We still got a couple things left to do here. All right, let's jump into it. So where are we at? Will Leverett from Macon, Georgia. Will, good to see you. Thank you for joining us today. We got Jerry McCahey all the way from Integra in California. Good morning, gentlemen, and thank you for all you do in the industry. If you don't know Jerry, he's a master of panelization systems, doing amazing things, and a big proponent and big supporter of Dave Cooper Live. All right, Al Tunise, how are you, Al? Good to see you. That's all the way from Vietnam, I believe, but guess what? Al's building stuff in Miami, modular, off-site, from around the world. I'm not sure who this is, but we got Shenzhen, China I think I said that right? Shenzhen, China in the house? That's really cool. Thank you so much. Maybe this is part of their fault. This is Derek Coburn. There it is. This is the year to let every builder learn about LumenKosh, worth the 14-day quarantine. There you go. If you don't know about LumenKosh, you should. It actually is a really cool product. And I would hope, Derek, that you're going to be showcasing that at IBS. If you're not, here's somebody that can talk to you about it. All right. We have Andrew Seeley in the house as well. Great show. Happy to be able to join from Texas. Always good to see you. Thank you for joining us today. Love it, love it, love it. We got some other back and forth comments. Andrew Wilkinson, good evening. All apologies for missing the beginning. Shall catch up later. Well, that's perfect English right there because he's from England.
Yes.
That's where he's coming from. I've seen Andrew, and Andrew's been on our show once, maybe twice, right? All right. David Guzman, we are going to be there. Looking forward to be part of what you are doing at IBS. So, David, thank you so much for the support. We do appreciate it. Listen, I know there's some more comments and questions rolling in, but we are out of time today. We have to get back to collaboration and education, all presented by the National Association of Home Builders, Building Systems Council. And if you don't know Devin Perry, he works very hard behind the scenes to make all of this happen. So we should all go there and support his efforts and all the efforts of Paul and Greg. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And everybody else, we will see you Wednesday. I have more updates, but it's going to be just myself updating you on everything happening on Building Systems Week. So I'm going to give you an update of what you missed if you did attend, but I'm not going to give you enough to make it too worth your while because you can attend. And then you'll see us again Friday with Mark Bare Naked Willie for BS Friday, Building Science. So don't miss it. All right, gentlemen, listen, you guys just hang tight right there. Everybody else, have a wonderful afternoon. We'll see you in 15 minutes at the next offsite building conversation. Bye now.
All righty. See you. Bye now.